Much. Philip Dubé is a Los Angeles County public defender and legal analyst. And Philip, several of the jurors are parents. Clearly, they must be thinking, if this happens to Jennifer Crumbley, and we're talking about Michigan, which is a state where lots of people have guns, parents probably are thinking that could happen to me. Should that be a factor? And would that be a form of jury nullification?
Well, it should not be a factor. Obviously, they are instructed to follow the law and determine what the facts are in the Crumbley case. Now, certainly, we cannot prevent jurors from discussing their own personal lives in the jury room and sharing amongst themselves what could happen if this were us. I mean, it's just human nature for them to build their life experiences into the deliberative process. But I got to tell you, from where I'm sitting, this is not a new precedent if she were to be convicted. There are plenty of cases, non-media cases in the United States where parents have been held accountable for the crimes of their children. In fact, the precedent was already set in Michigan. I believe a smoker mom left a pack of cigarettes around her apartment, I believe, with little kids. And while she was in the shower, one of the kids lit the lighter and a cigarette, and one of the children was burned alive. And they charged the mother with involuntary manslaughter. So it could happen. I think what's happening right now, at least with prosecutors in Michigan, is that in our field of consciousness, if you will, we still hearken back to Columbine, to Uvalde, to Parkland, and Sandy Hook. But the facts of those shootings should have absolutely no probative value in this particular case, because those facts do not put Jennifer Crumbley on notice that her kid could have been homicidal.
But wouldn't you be living in a society with blinders if that were the case? I mean, all of us know all of those. In fact, the fact that you went through them just by their first name is an indication that they are now part of the American vocabulary. School shootings, we know them by name. Columbine, Parkland, you name the school. Why shouldn't parents be forced to keep a closer eye on their children and be held responsible, as if in the case of Ethan Crumbley, they don't know what this child was capable of?
The problem is that we have a patchwork of law throughout the United States regarding gun control. On the day of this particular shooting, Michigan did not have a law in place that required parents to store firearms in locked containers in their own home, out of the reach of children. In reaction to this case, Michigan passed a law, it's called the Safe Storage Bills, that now requires parents to lock up and store away the guns out of the reach of their kids. And for this very reason, so even let's assume, for argument's sake, that your kid gets a hold of one of the guns in Michigan and injures somebody, you can do 5 years just for failing to store the gun. If you kill somebody in Michigan for failing to store the gun, you could get 15 years. So they don't even have to prove involuntary manslaughter or criminal negligence, just basically the failure to properly store. And then you go to other states in the United States where we are a gun culture. We are a hunting culture. We're a skeet and bird hunting kind of nation where in certain jurisdictions, it's fair game to bring your kids along, get a license to carry so that they can join in the festivities. And unfortunately, unless and until you have national uniformity, you're going to have this patchwork of outcomes in criminal prosecutions throughout the nation.
That being the case, if I'm a parent, what should I do? What should I watch out for? We talk about red flag laws, which would blame the system. But in this case, the parents are supposed to be the red flags. This is someone who diagrammed killings. This is someone who talked about blood and bullets. This was somebody that fit every box you could check of what a possible school shooter would look like, and yet somehow he slipped through the cracks. As a parent, what should I watch out for if Jennifer Crumbley is convicted?
Typically, at the age that Ethan did this crime, it was about 15. That could be an early onset of psychosis or schizophrenia or some type of bipolar disorder. Anytime you see any type of psychotic behavior in your kid, you got to get them to a mental health provider ASAP and at least get them seen, diagnosed, and properly medicated. In Jennifer Crumbley's case, she had absolutely no evidence prior to this of psychotic episodes, administration of psychotropic medication, psychiatric hospitalizations, complaints to children's services that the kid was neglected, constant visits to the home by social workers to check up on the family. There was just no way to predict that this tragedy was going to occur on this evidence. At most, what you had is perhaps the thought that he could hurt himself, but never was a homicidal ideation ever stated to the Crumley family.
But
So what
Philip,
are
if
they
I'm
supposed
a
to do?
parent of what, and I hate to keep breaking in because I know parents are screaming at the screen right now, and they're screaming at you, and they're screaming at me, which is, I'm used to it, and you probably are too. But if I'm a parent right now and I'm watching this, and I'm a parent of one of those 4 children who were killed, I'm saying, are you telling me that nobody is responsible for what happened other than Ethan Crumbley?
I think the school is partially to blame here. If you notice, school officials testified at Jennifer's trial that they didn't even feel they had cause to search him. They didn't feel that there was enough evidence to suggest that he was going to commit this type of mayhem. And it's very obvious why they said and did that. They are mandated reporters under Michigan law. If they suspect criminality or neglect on the part of a parent, they are duty bound to report that to the Department of Health Services and then file a written report within 72 hours. The failure to do that is a criminal act. The state of Michigan can punch their ticket to teach, to be school administrators, or work for a district. But the problem here was the system failed on all fronts. Nobody truly suspected that he was going to commit this type of carnage. So the bottom line is this: there may be civil liability against school officials and the district for failing to act and failing to search Ethan and getting the gun away from him. But criminally, I'm not sure that the government has met its burden showing by proof beyond a reasonable doubt that she breached a legal duty owed to the kids, owed to the families, or that she was grossly negligent under Michigan law.
I got 30 seconds left. She took the stand. She testified in her case. The bottom line is it boils down to whether or not the jury believes her because she was the defense. It was the only witness that they presented. In 30 seconds, do you think she managed to sell her story to the jury?
I thought she was a fantastic witness for herself. Obviously, she wasn't a perfect mom. She came off, as I've said on other shows, as just the imperfect soccer mom who loved her family, was working. She had her own issues with intimacy at home and obviously branched out to other intimate partners, but certainly not at the expense of her own kid. Had she have predicted or foreseen that this was going to happen, she would have intervened immediately and never let her kid spray up a school, ever.
Philip Dubé, thanks for being with us tonight.
Good night, Dan.
You got it.